Mas o problema, a maioria das empresas, a maioria das empresas não deveriam trabalhar foi por isso que o emprego tipo, a startup não é para ser ela tem que ter a própria aí esse programa de corporate e você tem que pegar um engraçado, ficar, não sei de tempo, vai começar a cair a internet, mas tem que ser de poucas pessoas, né, cara? Né? Então, um gerente nosso, eu queria um vídeo lá dentro, para fazer uma. Da porta para dentro, quando eu entrei lá, eu disse que era
Eu posso comer esta.
Tu sabe, tu quer mandar para cá? Manda para cá então.
Agora, esta é a apresentação. Primeiro os bem. O bem. Você abre.
Falamos também, falamos coisa.
Sim, falamos luego viene Jen, con su presentación, luego Daniel con el salón, luego estoy pensando ese chico, él tiene una aplicación.
Manda as apresentações aí, cara. Eu tenho que abrir, tu vai mandar como aqui pelo Zap mesmo?
A primeira do bem, acho que você tem
manda que daí eu já deixo tudo
por WhatsApp também.
Sim.
Essa é a primeira do bem. E acá.
Tratando aqui. Nós só temos essas três?
Sim. Por enquanto, sim. Ele vai mandar a sua apresentação e aqui o Lonei nós vamos a colocar logo.
Acho que acertou aí.
Tudo bem.
Tá, as três que nós precisamos estão na mão.
Quando o Daniel fale, nós podemos deixar um texto de foto.
Eu vou lá falar com eles.
20 minutos.
Pessoal que tá de brasileiro, primeiro que vai apresentar brasileiro. Se eu quiser. Pessoal, tem shopping lá em cima.
Então, acho que está bom. Mas eu preciso saber como ver a apresentação aqui. Onde está?
Ela tá sempre aqui, ó.
Ah, está aí.
Exatamente. Mas fala já. Aqui pode sair direto e ela vai descer.
Uma apresentação. Gustavo. Primeiro vai ser Ale e eu acho que eu não vou falar. Sí, nós temos dos microfones e aqui nós prendemos digamos, o fone e ligamos o evento. Então, quando você pressiona aqui e está
little weird. Who's already using Cursor? Right? That's what we expect. Who has never been to Founder House? First time in Founder House. Nice. So if you haven't yet, you can check out the rooftop. Is this better without mic or with mic? Without mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Until we fix it, we're going to be all in silence so everybody can hear it. Okay? Any questions? There is a WhatsApp group from Cursor. They're in the table. So you can go and scan. If you want Wi-Fi, get in the group. If you want to know anything about the event tonight, just get in the group so you don't need to ask your questions here, okay? We're super excited to have everybody here. Thank you so much for making this opportunity for Floripa to be hosting. We're so happy to have the global team here joining us. So no further ado, thank you so much for joining us. We're so Meetup, first meetup in Floripa.
So guys, we are talking more in English today, but as soon as you have a question, you can make it to space, not with you. We can talk together and make it work. Don't worry. The important thing here is just we are all learning. And Paloma, thank you so much for hosting the event. It was just kind of a lesson because we are looking for places like that, build the community, gather together people, and learn together. And today we are just very excited to be here and very happy because not only me, that I am Alexander, I'm from here. I am ambassador here from Professor Chris as me, as an ambassador, is an ambassador too. But we together here we have more 3 or 2 ambassadors, Marcelo and Gustavo from Porto Alegre. So it's amazing to gather the community, not only from here, but also from the south, and starting to learn more. But the most important people here, I need to say, is just Ben and Daniel. Ben are directly from the Silicon Valley, from the AGQ of Cursor, and then lives here in Brazil, but also works directly with the app. And both are technical, remember me here? Technical support engineers. So they have all the problems that we can find to solve. And actually we can put on them any change that we have to see in the app. So come on, our schedule is just very tight. Okay.
Okay.
Is that better or not that much?
Yeah.
Okay, I go.
E põe um som lá fora também. E a galera lá de fora.
So go ahead. Our schedule is just we start with Ben. Ben have not a short but very great today. And the reason is because after we have a Q&A, so we can ask anything to them and Daniel. And then after we have a showcase, we have 3, 4 people, 3 for people from our community to showcase some projects. So 3 4 minutes each. And then after we have a feedback yourself with more content, more knowledge related with UI, related with Cursor, how to better use your tokens, right? And things like that. So that's it, guys. We are very excited today. Please join us with the conversations. Feel free to ask in Portuguese or English, no problem. And we'll be very satisfied to work together, learn together to design.
That's fine, I'll just do it.
So that's it. Chris, want to talk anything? We are ready to go. Ben, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, so guys, Ben here. Let's start that.
What's up, everybody? Is this all right? This is what, volume? Good? Good? Great. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Feels very special to be able to be here and meet all of you. I've been here since like 3 p.m. today, and I've got to meet a few of you guys already, and it's been really cool to see what everyone's working on with Cursor. Daniel and I are both technical support engineers at the company. So like Alex said, our job is essentially to put out all the fires that we can figure out how to start. And today I wanted to just take a little bit of time to talk about how our team specifically uses Cursor at Cursor, because I think the product is often thought of as a tool for development purposes. EPD, like engineering, product, and design. There's pretty straightforward use cases on how to use Cursor to help you build your tools and use it as a building tool. But something that we've kind of used Cursor for internally with our technical support team is actually like working certain types of support issues as they come in. And so I think that it exercises some pretty cool muscles of the product. So I wanted to walk through a few of them in this little demo. And hopefully, with however you're using Cursor on your day-to-day, you can take a few pages from this and maybe get a little bit inspired by using it in a slightly different way. Apologies, my Portuguese isn't that great. I tried to do like Duolingo for 2 weeks before I came here and I didn't get very far. So it'll be in English, but if you have any questions, please, at the very end, we're more than happy to answer anything. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about like what it is to be a technical support engineer at Cursor at first. So I've been at the company for about 7 months. Daniel has been at the company for longer. This is actually our first day meeting, which is awesome. It was super cool meeting in person. We've put out a lot of fires together, and we've worked on a lot of projects together, and so it was really cool being able to shake his hands. And a lot of what we're doing on our day-to-day is essentially some version of a research problem. When you show up to work in the morning, or when I show up to work in the morning, I've got a large queue of issues that I've got to go through, whether like there's something actually on fire at the office, or there's a broken feature that hundreds or thousands of customers are reaching out to us about. We have a massive amount of support tickets that come in every day, and so we really lean on automation in order to get a lot of those problems solved quickly. And the crux of those problems is essentially just how well can you do your research. The slowest part about being a technical support engineer is going to go find all the different clues and pieces about what is wrong with the issue before you can actually go out and involve engineering or whatever team is most relevant to get it fixed. And whether you're doing technical support or you're just debugging the own features that you're building or using Cursor for some other reason, you're always going to come across some sort of problem that requires extensive research. For us personally, I use Cursor every single day. When I open up my laptop, it is like the first application that loads up, and I spend most of my day in there. We used to have a pretty large selection of tools that we would just keep open on our desktop and kind of go between, whether that's like ticket management software, Slack. We use a tool called Plane for our actual like ticket handling, Datadog for telemetry. Everyone has their own little suite or their bag of tools that they like to use, and now essentially all of that is getting piped into Cursor. So, by the time that I made this slideshow, and as of today, it's probably an even higher number, but over 75% of every single ticket that we work that comes in actually gets routed through Cursor. And that has done some pretty amazing things for our team over the last few months. I'd say that the average productivity of a TSC at Cursor has like gone between 5 and 10x the throughput, the ticket throughput, that we were able to do before we started using the client for our actual support work. For my case in particular, I came from like a smaller tech shop where I was doing technical support work before. I could get to do maybe like 10 tickets a day if I was like, having a lot of coffee in me. And like now we were able to hit between like 40 and 50 tickets on bigger days with the same level of quality, but just because we were able to use the tool that we're supporting to our advantage. So yeah, if you want to pop in the next one, I kind of want to talk about what made all of that possible. And I thought about like 3 different ways that we were kind of like leaning on different feature sets in the product in order to make our work a little bit easier and being able to get through it quicker. The first one is Ask Mode. For those that aren't familiar, Ask Mode is a certain mode that you can actually use inside of Cursor, and it's great. And not a lot of people use it, but you should. I use it all the time. It's usually how I start every single project that I'm working on. The way that we use Ask Mode in support is essentially, you can think of what happens when something goes wrong. You can kind of figure out what like the symptom of an issue is. For this example, we're going to be talking about like, let's just say there's a button in your UI that isn't working, right? That's like a description of a symptom. You can kind of just start with that description and start working with your agent, saying, hey, this button's not working. You usually, when you select that button, it should take you to a new page, right? let's start there and start just talking about that symptom, and then we can kind of look back into like how you actually fix that issue and present it to the engineering team, or if you work recently at Cursor, kind of just fix it yourself because they're just like letting us ship our own PRs, which is kind of awesome. And a lot of that relates to how you organize all of the folders that you have inside of your Cursor client. And I think this is pretty big. So we're able to actually have the entire Cursor code base locally on our laptops. It's something that everyone at the company has access to. That's because we want everyone to be able to actually fully understand how the product works. Code-based indexing is one of those tools that we really lean on. And that's just the ability to have an interaction between you and an agent and talk about your code base and how it works. Start to describe those symptoms and those behaviors that are either working great or, if you're talking to us, aren't working that well, and start to take those next few steps. So we have a can you go back real quick? We've got a multi-root workspace. So if you can imagine, you've got maybe your front end in one folder, your back end in another folder, and maybe you just have your docs, scraped, downloaded, and then indexed into your client also. If you've got all three of those open, multi-rooted in one workspace, that's going to allow your agent to actually go and search through all those things, because when you think about like any functioning products, those things are all going to be working with each other pretty closely. So putting it just in one place is actually siloing the agent from some information that would be, more helpful for it to have full scope over. So yeah, we'll walk through one example. Like if we just talk about like a broken UI component, I actually recorded this little demo on the plane right over here. So this is just me in my Cursor client asking like how our feature request tool works. Someone will come in and say, hey, like it'd be really cool if Cursor did this. And we're like, you're right, it would be really cool. Let's like launch a feature request. So we have a tool for it. I have no idea how it works, but in about 45 seconds of asking an agent, we had access to all those different folders. It was able to give me like a great description of everything that I would need to know about just starting my journey with like learning how this type of tool would work. That type of onboarding can be used in whatever type of use case that you're trying to leverage Cursor for. And like that's something that would take an hour-long meeting amongst 4 engineers in the past, or more depending on the complexity of it. And it's something that you can just like open up your laptop, have the right configuration, and just start going forward. And like the amount of time that is saved for that, it's pretty hard to quantify, but it's a pretty incredible way to get through your day quicker. So that's one way that we've been kind of leveraging. If you want to go to the next slide, kind of leads into the second aspect of this, which is not only is it important to be able to chat with your agent about your code base, but you want your agent to be able to go and retrieve things for you and go do things for you. And this is another big unlock for our team. And this is how we're able to actually spend most of our day inside the client instead of hopping between all these different tools. So I try to categorize them into just like different types of things that you need when you're working a technical support case, you're doing your research problem. To do your research, if a customer reaches out and they have an issue, you usually need to learn a little bit more about that customer. And you've got some databases that have all of that information. So if you have some type of MCP tool connector where you can get that customer info, figure out maybe what type of subscription they're on, figure out their team settings, that's leading you down the path of discovering whatever type of issue they're facing. It's also important to kind of know at a company that's scaling quickly and there's a lot of different pieces moving, what other people are talking about. Our team is globally distributed, so it's very rare that we're able to actually work in person and like our dialogues overlap face to face. So we really rely on being able to use the Slack MCP for me to say, hey, this customer is reporting there's a broken button. Are other people talking about this at the company right now? Has this already been reported? And am I going to be doing redundant work by trying to do this entire investigation before checking Slack? So I'll literally just put that into the workflow and Cursor goes and checks if the broken button has already been talked about. And a lot of times it has, and then all of a sudden you already know what to do. Documentation is another one. Run books are different types of troubleshooting guides. I wish I was the perfect technical support engineer, but I'm far from that. And there's a lot of things that I don't know how to do right off the bat. SSO has been really putting me through the ringer recently. And that's okay, because other engineers that have different types of specialties at the company can produce documentation that you can just reference when you're working with an agent. We use Notion MCP for that example. So I'll say, hey, this customer is having some type of issue with their SSO config. I'm not an expert in it. Do we have any types of documentation out there about how to troubleshoot this? it just runs a few MCP tool calls to gather that information, and then we can continue to go through that support work with that. That's something that I never needed to even leave the client to go do. So hopefully that starts to paint a picture on how you can kind of stack the different types of tools that you have inside of your quiver of whatever you're working with on a day-to-day basis, and just pipe them in Cursor. Same goes with like telemetry, issue tracking, account management, kind of follows the exact same pattern. You can go ahead and get to the next one. Okay, this is like a classic investigation flow that I tried to put into 5 different points there. The first one is like identifying where the failure point is, right? So again, talking about our work specifically as technical support engineers, we need to figure out like what part of the feature is broken and where the failure points are. Is this something that's isolated to one person, or looking at the logs, are we seeing like a huge instance of this happening and there's traces popping up left, right, and center that we need to actually say, all right, this might be some type of incident, this is a step, multiple customers are having this type of issue. That's usually the first thing that you want to check because you want to see how quickly the fire is spreading. So that's a great example of just being able to use something like Datadog, which is our telemetry tool of choice, to just pull the logs and traces from that right away. The next one is just trying to find similar cases. This is kind of going back to that Slack example. I'd say, Cursor, look for some logs and traces, see how widespread this issue is, and then go check Slack to figure out if other people are already talking about this. So within like the first 20 seconds, I figured out like how hot of an issue this is. And then whether or not it's a bug or if it's expected is when you start talking with your code base. You say, all right, let's go find the file path that usually supports this type of feature, and let's see if there's maybe any new or recently shipped PRs that have some new code that's kind of conflicting with what that expected behavior is. Let's say that it actually turns out to be a bug, and you found a little bit of an issue, then you got to file a bug report. I used to manually type out bug reports, and it was probably one of the more like arduous points of my day. Now we just use linear MCP, and we've got a skill that knows exactly how to write those bug reports that our engineers like in that format. And so we give it the information, it already knows a lot about the issue because we've been working with the agent for the entire thing, and it can produce the bug report again right from inside the client. That type of escalation in that streamlined workflow has saved me so much time. And this is just me working on one ticket. You can just open up more agents and have it go through all of this at the exact same time. And then something like updating docs. Every TSE at our company has probably touched our docs page. If we just see that there's something outdated, which our engineers ship, I think like 200-ish PRs a day. So keeping up with that is pretty hard. I've been on vacation for like 4 days, and I opened my laptop up and I was like, I have no idea what any of these features are. So the docs need to be updated quite often. So yeah, this is kind of just like one more thing I wanted to touch on. The point of this presentation is kind of like leading towards like the end automation that we've been using to help really support our work throughout the entire maturation or the maturing of our support team. I don't know how many are familiar with commands. I'm sure most are. You can just hit like a slash after you build out a command in Cursor, and you can actually just execute something that you've already pre-designed. So now agents are able to just call commands themselves and just essentially run very structured actions that you've actually worked with your agent. Or as I was just talking with someone earlier about, even using commands to say what the agent shouldn't be doing instead of what it should be in order to have some good guardrails. So here's an example: creating a support ticket, drafting a customer reply, searching through known issues, searching logs. Again, this is kind of just like how do you actually take all those ideas that I talked about and then put them in a markdown file that you can then reference, and the agent knows exactly what it's supposed to be doing in that moment. So if you go to the next slide, putting everything together, talking about like skills and sub-agents. Those have kind of been like 2 bigger features that we've rolled out over the past 6 months. And they're extremely helpful. Consolidating skills into things like a customer reply, figuring out, okay, when you write out a draft reply for a customer after we've done this entire type of investigation, here's the type of ways that you should be approaching someone, depending on maybe what plan they're on, or just like what type of voice do we want to have that's like foundationalized across the entire technical support team at Cursor. you can do a skill to do that. And inside the skill, you can run all those commands. It's going to help it actually produce that output better for you. Same thing with like drafting a high quality bug report. We already talked about that, like Notion stuff. And then sub-agents, which have just become increasingly more effective. We actually just released a feature the other day, which has a multitask, which allows the agent to actually orchestrate the sub-agents itself. You can also do that just by like asking the agent to do it, but I've found that multitask is a great way to parallelize your work. Again, these are just kind of examples of how you could use a sub-agent where if we get presented with one technical support issue, we're going to have an agent kick off different legs of that investigation. Here's another example. This is how I start my morning. Don't worry, this is all like synthetic, fake customer data. I didn't want to expose anyone's emails, but this is what I run when I get to work every day. It scrapes my entire ticket queue. The agent goes through and categorizes them by complexity, easy, medium, and hard. And then I let it try all the easy ones for me. We can actually see it doing it right there. So it goes through, it essentially goes through all of those steps that I talked about, and then at the end it produces what it thinks would be a good draft reply. Now we have given them no ability to actually send those out because sometimes it makes a really bad draft reply. This is work, and I can walk into my morning. We're actually putting this in as like a cloud agent now, and so I just open my laptop in the morning and it's already done. But this is just a way that we're just making work a little bit more effective while putting the extra effort into keeping like good quality as technical support at Cursor. So yeah, this is my favorite slide. These are some of the people that I work with. I think like the most special part about working here, especially on technical support, is seeing how much everyone that I work with actually really cares about the products and the people that are using it. I feel like I'm very lucky to be surrounded by these folks as my coworkers, and there's a lot more, but they couldn't all fit on this slide, and I actually just had Cursor shuffle all the different Slack photos from our team channel, and these ones got lucky. So yeah, it's really been a joy over these last 7 months to work at Cursor. It's been crazy to see the way that the company has changed, and the most special part about it are both the people that build it, support it, and most especially use it. So again, very grateful to be here and excited to talk to more of you tonight. If anything breaks, let us know. We're here when you need us. Just send us an email and we'd be happy to help you out and happy to answer any questions. Thanks, guys.
First,
swap.
we have space for some questions exactly for the presentation. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. So one question, you showed right the integration flow where you have like 5 steps, right? And you go through all of them manually. And that's nice, really nice setup that you guys have there, like this visualization. I have 2 questions about this. How do you guys decide, for example, right now it's working, this setup, the workflow, but I imagine like it's so big the company, right? You have a lot of people working together. For example, how do you keep things updated? I mean, how do you maintain the docs, right? And make sure that everybody has the updated docs. And also, when you create a skill, I mean, how do you integrate with the team? Because if that's challenging when you work with yourself, it's kind of okay because you have the freedom to go there and coach everything and change and mess it up and change it again. But when you work with a team, how do you guys come up with these solutions, with these standardizations and the workflows? And also, like, okay, you have 5 steps, and you go through them manually. Do you guys have any plans to kind of orchestrate them and automate these workflows? Because right now, the human is there just like oversighting and running through the steps, but why not automate these as well? What's the challenge of this field?
That's a great question. You want to plug in?
You talk how many PRs each day.
Good question to answer this one. Basically, we have a lot of automations. Everything, I think, every PR today, the code base triggers some documentation ethics. What else? Everything is connected. I think the idea is that you shouldn't have anything manually required to someone to remember. That doesn't make sense, right? The agents take care of that for us, and we, like humans, we are more reviewers. That's the key of everything. And of course, I wouldn't be able to cover all these integrations here because it's a lot. And it's a small team, of course. Small team of engineers, of product people. And the product is so huge, like a lot of new stuff. So, and in terms of support, I don't know if that's why you asked in the beginning, but the idea is that we started working very manually. So there is the support ticket, something's going on. I have no idea what this issue is. We had to go to the docs, we had to search for similar issues, try it ourselves, like a lot of manual stuff. And then as we started having like MCPs and agents and skills and this kind of stuff, we started gradually automating this flow. So I think this is key for your question about what we did, but it's also for everyone's use cases here. Because the idea is that you make with a new project, you may be tempted to think to anticipate all the roles and skills and everything that you're going to use in your project. And that's counterproductive and also not, like you can end up with a huge set of rules and skills and stuff, and it starts to hallucinate and all the kind of things that you were not really expecting. So the idea, the best strategy is usually to start gradually. Like I'm repeating things standard too much, so I can keep it in a role or in a skill, and I can also have this. Like you rarely evolve until you have like the skills that Ben showed. They are more like specialists. So we have like a reply drafter. So someone specialized in drafting my reply. So that's fun, but there's an agent that does the magic. I don't know if I answered all your questions.
And then one more thing on the shareability part, like making sure that like when you are refining your like commands, your rules, your skills, whatever, and like making sure like the rest of the team is actually using something consistent. Is actually something that Daniel's been working on. We've been experimenting with plugins, essentially just like a repo that has those rules and skills inside them that you can clone, and then that repo just is maintained, and essentially the entire team can just reference that as their their set of like specialized cursor configurations. We've been finding it super helpful for like onboarding. So when someone joins the company, I mean, when we joined, our onboarding was like, here's a laptop, get to work. And now we kind of want to get people like the right kind of like setup in order to be like a productive employee. And you can just have them clone this repo, and then all of a sudden they have like the reply drafter and like the logs investigator and all of that. Someone else that's actually maintaining that repo can update that and improve it, and then it can just be shared amongst the team using the plugin. There's other ways of doing it. If you're using cloud agents, you can kind of throw some rules and skills into like a repo that the cloud agent has access to, and just tell it to go look at that when it's trying to perform something. Essentially, just if you can find some type of like shareable form of Markdown, you can get an agent to perform pretty universally across the team. Hope that works. Yeah. Thank you. Of course.
Feel free to ask em português. Fique à vontade para perguntar em português se vocês vamos voltar às línguas.
Consegue falar mais alto? Pode fazer daí.
Hi, okay. So I have one question about the ask mode. I was very interested because I rarely use it, and I realized that every time I use cursor and I have a question, I always ask the plan mode because he goes one step ahead and helps me to find a solution. So I want to ask you guys, when should I use the ask mode? It's more about getting to know the code base, someone just start working on something new, or is there another use that I can do that I don't know yet?
Okay. Thanks. That's a great question. Personally, and again, I honestly don't think that you can really go wrong. It sounds like you're using it in a really good way already. When you can think of like the modes in Cursor, it's essentially just like different types of system prompts that are getting sent to the agent when you have a certain mode selected. So ask mode is like There's also some guardrails that are also like hard injected in, but it's like, don't start writing code in Ask mode. Don't like do too much work. Like the point of this is just to have a more like simple conversation with the user. And so you'll find that like responses will come back quicker. I found like depending on the model that you're using, if I try to do something in Ask mode versus Plan mode, if I just want some type of simple answer, like how does this button work? I don't need it to like ask me certain questions if I know exactly what I want. To your point of like Plan mode, a lot of that is for like building purposes and essentially saying like I have this like far, reach idea. I kind of know what I want, but I also want someone to come ask me some like intelligent questions. Getting something before you come back to me. I think that that's where like Plan mode really shines. So like the proactive building, I think Plan mode is super helpful for. And if you know that you just want to be able to have like some type of like onboard me to this, folder, or how does this button work? That's where Ask mode works. Either way though, between Plan mode or Ask mode, you'll be able to get the answer that you're looking for. Even in agent mode, but sometimes depending on what you've got in there, it might start writing code and you have to stop it, and no one likes that. So yeah, I'd say like different strokes for different folks, but Ask mode and Plan mode work great in both of those instances.
Someone more questions?
So you guys work at one of the biggest companies in AI in the world, and you must be ahead of the curve on what most people know. And I would like to know if there's one feature, like you mentioned plugins, you guys talked about MCPs. Is there one technology that you think most others are sleeping on?
It's a good question. You want to try it first?
No idea.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe if I were to just like look at some impressive things that I've seen people like within our company do, I think that leveraging automations has been super huge. I think like the idea of a cloud agent is something that a lot of people are already familiar with and are warming up to. I've spoken with a lot of people earlier, and like they're actually substituting a lot of manual work with just agentic work, and being able to actually have that run off of your own local resources and on someone else's servers is pretty big. And trying to just figure out how to do that reliably and have it running essentially constantly is like where the hard work is right now. We're getting there internally. We're definitely leaning on automations more internally, and I think that it's actually showing some pretty promising results. Again, like any company, you want to make sure that you can really guarantee good quality that comes out, or at least good measurement of whatever quality is coming out. And models are like the first like non-deterministic products that everyone is starting to kind of like put into their daily driver. So it's interesting trying to figure out like how you actually like measure that very precisely. One thing that we're doing with automations that I think is pretty cool is when the huge amount of PRs are getting shipped on a daily basis, those are code changes that are either meant to like build new features or like fix broken features, in the example that like we find a lot of our work occurring. And so there's actually an automation that is just waiting for a PR to be merged. And there's actually just like a GitHub trigger that's sitting in front of that. And then it wakes the agent up. The agent looks through the README. If there is one for that PR, it actually just looks at the code itself and says, okay, I think I know what this code is doing. I know where it's going inside the repo. Let's check our ticket tracking software. Let's check Slack. Let's check our feature request tool. Is this PR actually like fixing a bug report or a feature request that a customer has submitted? And if it is, let's ping whoever's responsible for that current report, right? Like that whole entire thing can happen automatically, and then we'll just be, going about our day. You can get like a Slack message that says, with like 80% confidence, it looks like this PR just got merged that seems to be related to, the broken button in the UI. Here are all the customers that are tied to that ticket. You should reach out to them. And then obviously the human needs to go and essentially confirm all that information and take the manual step of being like reaching out to the customers who are the ones that deserve a lot of like human touch sometimes, but you can let the automation do a lot of that work automatically for you. So long story short, I think automations are definitely a thing in the future, and I think like the hard part right now is trying to figure out the right application for them on like a reliable basis. And I think just like every day I keep seeing that become like more of a reality. So pretty neat. Yeah, of course.
I think
Is it amplified? I have a mic.
I'm not sure.
Should I use this one?
It's just for X, like,
Ah, okay,
so
okay, okay.
people can hear you better because they're complaining that they couldn't hear you that well.
Oh, okay. So I think one additional thing to mention about this is of course like a big question, but if we think about the evolution of using AI for coding and for creating products, Cursor's story is interesting because it started as like a VS Code fork. And I believe a lot of people in this room, they still think it's still a VS Code fork only. And it started this way, and we added the tab, and then you can autocomplete what you are doing, so you are already like a good programmer, and you know what you're coding, and you can save some time. And then the agent, and then the blind mode, and the skills and everything. So this evolution, if we think about like this how this is evolving, if we like we zoom out and see the big picture, the idea is that we are going like an agent first mode of creating products. So a lot of people, a lot of our customers still like underuse Cursor. They still like just vibe code with the agent, just asking questions, just I don't know what to, well, you get it, right? Like it's just like talking to the agent and reviewing it. But then you have call agents. You can turn off your computer and see the PR the next day. So this kind of things is really like a mindset change. You start to realize how much you can get from it, and this is not obvious. Especially like as Ben was saying, we travel like 2 days and a lot of things are having issues. So we need to ourselves like catch up with everything that the product is supporting. And that's challenging. So I can imagine how challenging that is for other people working with other products, with other businesses, and trying to see what's new with Cursor, with the competitors. And that's something interesting too, because all these skill is evolving together. So we see Cursor evolving, Codex. Everyone is pushing the boundary of what's possible, and that's great. I think we always sometimes one will be ahead, and sometimes it changes, but overall it's evolving, and we can take advantage of that.
So, I have a lot of questions, to be short. First one, you talked about commands, right? But I've seen in the box that commands are deprecated, right? Now we use skills. We had custom mode, we had commands, now we have skills. So why are you using commands still?
It's a great question, Eric. So the commands got replaced with skills because essentially it's just the same type of context that you put into your requests. Mainly that was just trying to encapsulate the idea that inside a skill you can layer all of these different pieces of information. So yeah, skills have replaced commands, but at the end of the day, it's doing a lot of the similar things. Like it's just looking through that context. That depending on how often you want the agent to actually use it, you can use the setting to say always apply this skill. Use the progressive disclosure approach, or like essentially just letting the agent choose when it thinks the skill should be necessary. You said commands, and then what was the second one? Oh, the custom modes. I was kind of sad when we deprecated the custom modes. I really liked them. We had one that was like specific for support, but again, like the crux of all of these features is just injecting the right type of context into the model request. And it's just like, how do you find the right type of like mode for that to happen? So commands were great, but as you can see, like all those like 5 steps that were broken out, those were all just like would have to be different commands that you can just consolidate in one skill because they all roll up into the same thing that you're trying to do, which is in this case, the skill would be like being our like automated TSC helper. So We deprecated the commands just because we think that skills are going to be more shareable, and it's essentially just doing the same thing, but instead of having to like hit slash and then run the command, that just exists inside a skill file that as LLMs are becoming just more powerful, they have better discretion on when they actually should apply those skills, which hopefully can save you some context tokens here and there. And then yeah, with the custom modes, super similar. That was also just different types of text injection into the model. But I did like how it was like a different color and you could make it your whatever like, you know, custom mode you wanted. But at the end of the day, like agent mode with the scale is just doing the exact same thing. So for those that have been like sticking with Cursor for a while, you've definitely seen like those are just like a lot of it is like experimentation with like what is the best form factor for these things to work. And you know, as we've rolled out features and gotten good feedback through sending an email to hi@cursor.com or just, you know, vocalizing how you what you like about the product and also what you don't like, that's guided a lot of the direction for like things that we've deprecated and things that we've rolled out. So definitely stay loud and let us know what things are working and what aren't, because we're keeping a keen ear to it. So good question. Do you have another one or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just complement this one.
Just complementing this one.
Oh, yeah.
We I think skills became like a industry standard. So probably that's why the comments became like a secondary option. And also I think the mention about the skill, you can configure it to disable or automatic invocation by the agent. So that's what basically turns skill into comment. It's exactly the same. It's not going to be invoked automatically to inference. It's going only if you call it. So it ends up being the same thing.
A really short question. What model do you use mostly? Or like, do you use GPT for one thing, a composer for another thing, and so on and so on?
We can both answer this one, but I like to use Opus for planning and Composer for executing. So when I'm trying to ideate on something that I know is going to be like a big build, I like to use Opus, build out a nice plan, you know, burn a lot of tokens getting that out. But when it's actually like writing something, we found that like Composer's fast and it's good at executing code or writing code. So I'll usually flip between two. Daily Driver, I have been using Composer a lot more because I'm impatient and I like fast. And I literally actually haven't tried GPT-5.5 yet, but we've been hearing good results from it, and I'm pretty sure we're doing a promo with it, so I'll probably try it later tonight. Yeah.
The same basically, but sometimes we work with complex support tickets, and it does like a long investigation and a long analysis and a draft reply, and I'm kind of skeptical about it. So I usually sometimes run through Gemini or Codex to see if there's some blind spot or whatever. So sometimes after using it, the same as I mentioned, I run the same analysis through a different model.
Ok, vamos fazer mais duas perguntas. Certo? Só achar a Rita aqui.
So, this question thinks about cost optimization because with a lot of new functionalities, it comes with a lot of tokens. And I think about the junior entrepreneurs and what is Cursor to launch a SaaS. So $20, you can go the whole month. So I want to know what if Cursor thinks about it.
Sure. Yeah, we certainly do. And I think that this is like a new technology that over the past couple of years, it's only become more widely adopted across just those that are trying to build agentically. And I think that along the way, we're going to earn a lot more tokens than we need to sometimes. But I think that there's like two different mindsets of customers that I've kind of seen just by asking similar questions. One of them is like, I don't really care how many tokens I've heard, I'm going to use Opus for everything, which is great, but it's not really sustainable. I think that over time, maybe that will be the dominant mindset. Right now, I don't think it really is. What we're thinking about at Cursor is essentially scoping the model selection to the size of the task. And what that means is, as you're asking the agent to do something, have some type of router that sits in front of it that says what model is the smallest or most cost effective that can still get the job done effectively. That's a really hard problem to solve, and we've got a team that's like looking into it. But like down the road, that essentially means auto isn't just routing for cost optimization, just based off of model availability and delivering high quality, but it's also working a little bit more closely with you to figure out what is this user actually trying to do right now and what model would serve that purpose, and not kind of overdo it. There's a term that we use, like driving a Lamborghini to the grocery store. You don't need a Lamborghini to go to the grocery store. It's fun, and it looks great, but you could probably use it more. It's expensive, exactly. And so you could use like a more cost-effective car to get to and from the grocery store. And it's just kind of figuring out, taking that selection process out of the developer's hands and just having that be a smart router. I think that'd be really cool. It's definitely getting talked about. And we'll see where that goes. I think that there are a lot of different products out there that will eventually start kind of like converging in that direction.
I think some few additional points. For small teams, it's definitely useful to use some boundaries, not so much some guardrails for costs. So if you have automated usage and you set like a threshold, and you have like a predictable budget for your month. So that's a good option. The second option is I strongly recommend sub-agents, because you have like complex tasks and long conversations sometimes. And sub-agents is a really strong feature in regards to cost, because your tokens will still be the same, but if you delegate like a library installation or a code-based search or anything that is going to run a lot of output, it will generate a lot of output. That's really not all of it relevant to the main question, the main conversation. Sub-agents are the stars here. And that makes a huge difference, because you can have, if it's really complex, you want to use like a kind of Opus, you need to use like a thinking model, an expensive model. You need that, but you don't need that for all the details in this task. So sub-agents are definitely like a good tool to explore.
Mais uma?
Fechou, tem mais uma pergunta.
Tem outra pergunta aí?
Não, acho que agora.
My question is about from Marcelo's question. It's about how you use switch models on your workday. Besides direct of Opus or this small picture, or you go from a browser and you want a big picture in that Opus between thinking mode, or how do you switch between these modes?
I think that really depends on like how open to experimentation are you. I think there's a lot of like developer preferences there. I'm a big like set and forget person. So I like to just like see success from a model. I can stick with that for a while. If it starts to kind of stall out in its performance, that's when I'll start to experiment. But I like to kind of like get familiar with like the writing style of a certain LLM. And so I kind of know like what it's going to output at the very end. Again, like I think, being like slightly token conscious, like I like to float between Opus and Sonnet. I think that like Opus is whenever there's some type of reasoning or if we're having to run one of those larger workflows, I like to do that. And then I just like the tone of Sonnet's writing personally. And I just find myself having to like change less with its draft replies. And so I think that I've kind of like associated a model with like a certain task that I do throughout the day. And getting there definitely takes a lot of reps. And then finding that right model, I think, I forget who I was talking about it with earlier, but like best event and just like trying to figure out like have a few models try the same job and figure out which one has shown better success. After a few of those attempts, just sticking with the one that you found is most effective there. Our engineers love using best event or more like work trees. And just essentially, let's have a few models take a crack at this. They'll come back with some output, and even have a model review the model's output, model inception, and just kind of lock it in from there. But I probably only float between like 1 to 3 throughout my day. And I actually like auto a lot too. It's pretty reliable for a lot of the cases that I've kind of scoped it down to, and it's fast. Yep, of course.
Guys, thank you so much for all the Q&A, all the support, and now you guys will be here, so if you want to talk a little more, maybe we can talk more about. And we are going to the next phase, so thank you so much for being here. And let's see
Cool.
Then we have what we are looking for is video art showcase. Showcase are presenting people of our community. So I have in case of Pluto, AI, regarding that. And we have video for minutes, right? 5 minutes, so then this is the first one. Okay, so that's it, we're gonna here represent them, and then after, go to the logger. We have the presentation ready? No. Oh, wait. Ben, go ahead, please, thank you.
Valeu.
Boa noite. Bom, o que eles vão apresentar é o levantamento de frutos e contábeis em internet. Então, o problema que a gente tinha era uma planta dessa, muito complexa, que o engenheiro precisava analisar. O que tinha de contábeis?
Acho que você fica melhor.
Então, por exemplo, ele tem um ar-condicionado, é um contável. Mas onde que tem um ar-condicionado aí? Esse era um problema que o pessoal tinha. Pode ir. Então, a primeira fase de selecionar e resolver esse problema é criar uma interface onde o engenheiro pudesse, pelo menos, indicar onde estava cada uma das partes da planta. Depois que ele identifica isso, a gente faz uma análise, usa um agente para analisar as tabelas e ver o que o engenheiro já colocou no descritivo. Teoricamente, isso deveria ser automático ali pelos softwares como o AutoCAD e afins. Só que na prática não é isso que acontece, porque a pessoa geralmente faz na mão. Ele não deixa, tipo, componentizado todos os ar-condicionados. E aí a gente pega ali, né, o que ele colocou na tabela. O próximo passo é fazer uma análise de fato da planta. A gente divide ela em várias partes e cria ali uma sobreposição de uma parte e a outra. Para cada uma dessas partes, pode passar, a gente analisa onde estão as tags que o engenheiro colocou. Para fazer essa identificação de tags, a gente usa principalmente o Gemini, e aí ele usa como se fosse um plano cartesiano para poder identificar cada uma dos componentes. Um problema que a gente tinha aqui era, como a gente divide em 90 partes, tem muita sobreposição. Então a gente precisa fazer uma identificação do que está sobrepondo para ele não contar duas vezes. Depois, então, que a gente tem a análise das tabelas e do desenho, a gente tem o que foi colocado apenas na tabela e o que foi colocado apenas no desenho. E aqui dentro dos ainda nesses projetos, é preciso levantar a quantidade de quilos de metal que vai para fazer uma planta dessa. Então, a gente faz a identificação de todos os dutos que tem uma planta e a gente verifica qual que é a dimensão desses dutos. Depois que a gente tem a dimensão, a gente aplica uma NBR nele para poder calcular a quantidade de quilos que precisa para fazer uma obra dessa. Uma obra como essa aqui, para fazer um pavimento desse, era, por exemplo, 5 milhões de orçamento só de ar-condicionado. E o pessoal tinha que fazer esse levantamento em 1 a 2 dias. Então, se ele faz isso com uma precisão baixa, ele perde competitividade no mercado. E qual que é o resultado que a gente tem? Então, um engenheiro sênior demorava 1 dia de trabalho para fazer isso, e essa empresa, ela tem por volta de 10 engenheiros que fazem isso. Hoje ele consegue fazer isso em 30 minutos, enquanto ele vai almoçar. Ele tem uma precisão muito mais alta do que ele tinha e a empresa se torna muito mais competitiva. E aí é claro que ele não fica dormindo, ele tem diversos outros problemas para resolver, mas são de fato problemas de engenharia e não um problema de ficar contando quantos ar-condicionados tem numa planta. Então, esse é o nosso resultado. Eu sou o William Azevedo e a gente fez tudo isso usando o IA para identificar e para codar o sistema.
Parabéns, cara. Pessoal, nós temos um tempinho de algumas perguntinhas, uma, duas, alguém quiser. Senão depois também, o William vai ficar por aí,
Boa.
certo? Show de bola, obrigado demais, cara. Belo projeto, hein? Parabéns.
Valeu!
Show. Agora a gente vai apresentar a Rita, certo? Boa. Vamos nessa.
Não sei quanto economia que esse gerou.
Boa, eu esqueci disso. Pois tem o Gustavo e tem mais uma pessoa, né? Marcelo. Ah, o Marcelo vai ficar depois, né?
Yes.
Tem o Iggy também. Ah, boa, pode ser. Boa, Rita, muito obrigado, viu?
Eu que agradeço.
Boa sorte.
Boa noite. Meu nome é Rita e alguém conhece o OpenStack? Quem conhece, levanta a mão para eu. Olha, poucas pessoas. Interessante. Então, eu vou apresentar para vocês o OpenStack, esse framework open source para desenvolvimento baseado em especificações. Ele tem um GitHub e hoje eu presto serviço para a Secretaria da Fazenda e a gente está com alguns projetos de IA, inclusive eles têm algumas ferramentas de desenvolvimento interna, né? Hoje em dia, programar na mão não é mais tão produtivo. E aí eu estou desenvolvendo, não sei nem se pode falar mais desenvolvendo, porque eu não sei se é bem desenvolvendo o que eu estou fazendo, mas eu estou ajustando essa plataforma para ela ser usada internamente. Eu peguei esse repositório e eu criei as etapas de desenvolvimento internas, com as regras internas de desenvolvimento, e eu modifiquei o nome, né? Então eu consigo ali fazer a inicialização. Deixa eu dar um zoom aí, para vocês verem melhor. Então a pessoa consegue cefar spec, init, na versão open source é OpenSpec, então você consegue alterar isso e você consegue criar esse terminalzinho que permite que você acompanhe todo o desenvolvimento de todas as funcionalidades que você tem em qualquer uma das plataformas que podem ser usadas para programar de IA. Então, por exemplo, Codex, Cloud Code, Cursor, Gemini, você consegue inicializar somente com isso. E tem bastante coisas legais aqui, deixa eu mostrar para vocês. Você consegue visualizar a interação dos dashboards, então, eu vou rodar aqui. Viu? Então, ele mostra como está o status de desenvolvimento de todos os projetos com esse comando. E para você fazer uma alteração, fazer adaptação para dentro da sua empresa, do que você está trabalhando, você consegue replicar. Você tem esse arquivo que eu não sei falar, né? YAML. E você descreve como se fossem skills que executam as tarefas, só que ele está estruturado dessa forma que você consegue executar no comando, né, e passar para outras pessoas utilizarem. Então, eu acho que é muito útil, então, eu quis compartilhar aí com vocês. Grata.
Alguém tem uma pergunta para a Rita? Tem um espacinho? Não? Por enquanto não. É isso? Boa. Agora é Gustavo ou Iggy? É o Iggy? Boa, então vamos nessa. Iggy, qual a palavra? Manda ver. E a apresentação? Vai apresentar de lá? Ah, bom. Tá bom. É que ele já tem conexão, né? Pode chamar, né? Sim. Obrigado. Era que eu lembro isso aqui. Com licença. E agora, vai nos dois? Com licença.
Não, precisa do som, não.
Vamos pular o wiki, vou pegar o wiki para arrumar o som.
Ah,
Só na
tá.
TV.
Peraí, deixa eu tirar esse negócio aqui.
Vamos inverter.
Boa. Pode ser, Gustavo? Beleza? Depois a gente vai com o Igor, ele tá ajustando ali. Segura aqui que eu coloco esse negócio.
Inglês ou português?
Tu que sabe, rapaz.
Português, então. Cara, eu entendi que tu ia deixar só o primeiro slide. Pode ficar só no primeiro dele. Eu achei que tu ia tirar todos os outros e deixar só o primeiro ali. Pode. Não, pode deixar só o primeiro ali. Eu tinha entendido que tu ia tirar todos eles e deixar só. Tá bom.
Ei, vem. É fome.
Pode ser?
Vai aqui,
Pode colocar aí. Sim. Vai lá aí. Você vai primeiro passar o vídeo, né? Primeiro você vai falar. Então primeiro fala. Depois.
Aqui, vou colocar você de novo, com licença. Aqui, tá o microfone, pronto.
Liga.
O que deu? Tentou?
Vai sair o microfone, né? Alô?
Oi.
Quando compartilhou, ele não deu sinal de vídeo.
Alô? Oi.
É a home da TV.
O som já...
Agora pegou o microfone. Toca o som para ver se sai daqui. Alô?
É impressionante.
Alô? Agora chegou. Só um pouquinho.
Fala antes, depois
Aí eu
passa na
falo,
TV.
e quando eu for passar isso aqui, tem que mudar o som pra televisão.
Sobe aqui que eu
Nossa.
vai aqui na frente.
Não, eu
Acho que agora vai. E não deu pra compartilhar na tela, ali foi isso? Não pegou pro HDMI? Acho que daí deu conflito. A gente tá falando, cara, esses problemas técnicos sempre dá, né?
Hi everyone, I'm Iggy. I developed
Se não é impressa,
a interface so I can make anime with a studio. I mean an anime studio that has no humans in it. So I talk to my agents. I have several agents with different personalities, which are characters in my anime. I give them jobs, and they have pipelines, and they make my animation for me, and it looks a little bit like this. So it's a little bit messy, but yeah. You can now change the sound, please. I'm gonna play the animation that they made. Não foi. É, mas o som tem que sair. Vai. Yeah! Pronto. Aí. Não!
Ai, na internet.
Ah! Eu baixei o vídeo. Vamos de novo.
Pera. Respira.
Yeah, let's go. No.
That's great, man. Thank you so much. So, Gustavo? Ah, sorry. Yes, Rob. You take some questions? Yeah. Guys, anyone have some questions to Iggy? Algumas perguntas? Ninguém? Manda.
What AI model have you used to make the animation, the music, the script? You know, do you give one prompt and generates everything?
No, this was, I made it 2 months ago. There was no Dance 2 yet. I made everything shot by shot with start image, end image, and I just used everything that I could, like music was Suno, I used Dance, Blink, I used all video models that I could, and I just had this idea in my mind, and you know, I don't speak Japanese so well, like that's to show that with AI nowadays you can just manifest any ideas that you have. You can make apps, you can make platforms, even animation in a language you don't speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, so we have Gustavo. Agora. Pegou?
O nome dos apresentadores?
Muito
Não,
louco.
apresentadores? Iggy, pode chamar?
Eu fiquei pensando, cara.
Hello everybody, I'm Gustavo, I'm a Cursor ambassador, and I will talk today about agent orchestration inside Cursor. In these orchestrations, we can have many agents and sub-agents. Everybody knows what is an agent and a sub-agent. Okay. An agent in this workflow is a manager that will orchestrate everything that we want. In a sub-agent, we can say that is our specialist. I will take, it's not here, I will take a shot on how he did use the video and try to explain his workflow. I don't know how he did, but I will try. You can imagine that our agent or orchestrator, you have an prompt that he needs to make a video about an anime. Like he shared, he take a shot from the beginning to the end. For this, if our agent, our orchestrator, will do this by herself, you will take a lot of time, a lot of context. So how can we use the sub-agents for that? We can make a sub-agent only knows about the photo that he is going to do. So we can have any sub-agents to the photos. And at the end, we have another sub-agent that you bring everything together on the final result. So our agent, the manager, only knows what the user wants, that is the video, and how should be the output.